Morning, everyone. This is Tyler Williams from the Lancaster County Extension Office here in Lincoln. I'm going to do a quick little ag climate update for you. We've had a lot of things going on the last few days. The biggest thing to note is the storm that came through recently. It dumped quite a bit of rainfall, even some flood warnings across the state. This is typically our driest time of the year, and so anytime you get an inch or two of precipitation, that basically is all that we need here in December and January to be right next to normal. So there's still a relatively dry area in the southwest part of the Panhandle, but the impact this time of the year is pretty minimal. But there's definitely a lot of rainfall out there, as you can see, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches in south central Nebraska precipitation. Again, that's mostly what you get in total in December, January, and February. So a season's worth of rainfall came in a day, more or less. But it did dump quite a bit of snow. As you can see, there's 6 to 10, 12 inches across portions of central and western Nebraska up into the Dakotas. Definitely an impactful storm, especially to cattle producers out there with the snow on top of mud. When it comes to short-term forecast, definitely going to get cold here tonight and through the weekend. Remain relatively cold through the next week or so, out towards the end of next week. It doesn't look like the Arctic air will settle in, but definitely will be cold tonight. And most people would consider it pretty cold. We'll have a relatively turbulent next few days. Little shots of snow showers kind of moving through, but nothing near what we saw because most of this is going to originate from the north. So it'll be cool and won't carry a lot of moisture with it. One caveat, kind of looking forward, after we get into next week, if things start to warm back up, that the area that's covered with snow in Nebraska will probably have a hard time warming up. So you can expect any warm up to happen in the areas without snow. Because it will take quite a bit of energy to melt some of that snow off with our short day length, and most of our temperatures will still be below normal. So looking a little bit further out, again, relatively normal temperatures after middle of next week. Warm up just a little bit, but nothing extreme as far as a big warm up at least appears on the way. We're coming up on the climatological coldest time of the year, so it's usually about the second week of January or so. So things start to look up after that, at least if you're looking at the curve. So looking at long-term forecasts, most of the long-term forecasts have been pretty subpar the last couple months. That's up until recently we started to mimic El Nino conditions, because there's a weak El Nino out there. I don't think it's been official yet, just because it has to meet all the criteria, but sort of saw what an El Nino does with warmer temperatures in northern plains, increased moisture in the central and southeast part of the U.S. So kind of had a typical El Nino pattern the last couple weeks, but nonetheless, it's not really given us much to go on for at least a long-term forecast. If we do take a look at some of the snowpack, folks that are interested in what's going on out in the Rockies, right now in most of the Platte River Basin, it's a normal to above normal snow water equivalent for most of the drainage areas that melt into the Platte. If you go further north into northern Wyoming and Montana, into more of the Missouri River Basin as a whole, some of the headwaters up there, that snow water equivalent is a little low, although most of the snowpack comes later on in the season anyway. Looking at all of the reservoirs, Lake McConaughey is at 81% capacity, which is normal to above normal to where most of it is at. Almost all of the reservoirs in the Platte River system up into Wyoming and Colorado are at or near normal or above normal in a lot of cases. Some of them are 100 to 120% of normal capacity, or of normal capacity for this time of the year. So all things considered, the water situation is looking in good shape. Soil moisture across the state after the recent rainfall, even though a lot of it didn't soak in, it's already pretty wet underneath there. So all things considered, things are looking up, at least from the water standpoint. If you have livestock right now or needed to get any late season fertilizer, the recent rainfall probably didn't help you at all. So a few challenges, but as we head into the new year, hopefully things will look up, and Happy New Year.